So I'm following a trail of ideas that was sparked in my Fruit of Life cycle. It was confirmed in this graveyard spread that I did yesterday with Bodhi and Michelle. And then I really confirmed it this morning when I went through and I did this grimoire spread about sacred coming off of this lunar cycle, this lunar concept. And so what I'm doing is I'm seeing this idea of Kairos. And as I was having lunch earlier, I remembered that I had covered this page before. I have done this a long time ago. So this is an old thought form. And this is from October. Oh, whoa! It's from the same month. This is October 13th. What's the 16th? It's 2019. Oh, it took me several days to do. So this is from October 13th through the 16th in 2019 is when I did this Kairos page. And I can't find a note page to go along with it, so I'm not sure what happened there. But I just want to kind of go over this page and see what ideas might come up for me, and then I'll fill them into this empty notes section. This remaining space that I have here in my grimoire, I'll kind of condense these thoughts, recycle them to my current experience, put them here, and then I'm going to use this page as inspiration to start a new spread for issue 3, the next issue that will come up for the grimoire. So I'm just going to kind of sit here and meditate with this image and leave my note page open so that I can transfer these ideas. Let's see what comes up. Okay, immediately my eyes are drawn to the Akashic records. This is very symbolic to me of the idea of the cycle of things being in seasons, just constantly repeating over and over again. And then I have this little eye here for information. Unconditioned consciousness. So it kind of makes me think that, you know, the Akashic field could really be held in water, right? We have this idea that water holds memory and information, and we're all just little pockets of water. We're all containers of water. Plants, animals, humans, Gaia, you know, probably our solar system is filled with water. So I'm just thinking that this Akashic Records thing feels like an association to water. So I'm just going to kind of put that note here. And I really see that it's talking about time in the past, now, and future. So we have this idea of time being trifold, like it's 2 or 3 things. Memories, the past, perception of it changes. So what I'm remembering about this is that as I change, my memory of the past changes. My opinion and a judgment and perspective of the past changes. So what I could clearly see is that the past can change, which is an odd idea that you think past is historic and in stone, but really all humans are a perception of past, present, future. So it's not in stone in one symbolic way. It's something that can breathe and live and die just as your ideas do. And then I'm seeing this beautiful rabbit, which is really interesting because I wrote Black Rabbit Rescue. I'm not sure what the rabbit rescue was about, but this idea that I was recently doing a thought form spread on the white rabbit, on, you know, follow the white rabbit, kind of like a play on the idea of the Matrix. I don't know if I had that down in here somewhere, but it's definitely a thought form that I recently drew that will be in issue 3. So this white rabbit is now coming forward to balance with this black rabbit that I had already created. So I'm late. Makes me feel like this thing that I'm doing something wrong, or I could be doing it better, instead of just really being present with how it's being done at this time and then making the steps and actions from there. Not using this worry that I can see very clearly in this image. So now my eyes are coming down here. Time is art. So Jose Arguelles really is the one I believe that came up with this slogan, this intention, this affirmation that time is art. So as I'm exploring sacredness, which is the moment of now, which is life, I see the time passing in our memories. And so if I get to change my past, I'm basically creating my future. So in that way, our perception of memories of time is creation. That's kind of how I'm coming up with, condensing the idea of tying art with time. And not just time like we're thinking about, oh, I'm going to get up at 9 o'clock, but time as in seasons of cycles of life, as how plants are planted and seeded and they grow, how an animal is, what is an animal? Wow, that's interesting. I've never used the reference of reproduction in animals. I'm always talking about creation in the form of what plants' reproduction is, but not the reproduction of animals. So I'm feeling very called to this idea that I was writing about, which is the axis of procession, and how it relates to this concept of Kundalini. So I'm writing here about the nervous system and the vertebrae. So I'm going to start really thinking about animal reproduction. For years, I've only been really using the symbolic expression of plants or computers when I'm exploring these cycles of time and how they relate to my life, like within the matrix. But it's ideal to go ahead and incorporate other types of symbolism. So another pattern recognition. If you can see here, that's what I'm observing as a pattern recognition. So I recognize that the pattern between plants and animals are similar, but there's also differences. So what I would want to do is get more familiar with the pattern of reproduction in animals so that I can then fold that into my overall theory and experience of how I'm evolving my shadows and my preconditioned notions about life to try to live a more authentic, outside of the box life, right? I'm guessing this is me standing on the moon completely naked, unshaven, and just putting my arms out, and it looks like joy, that to live outside of the box, to be completely liberated and free. And so this is drawing my attention now. Watch your face. Face automatically comes to mind with looking at the clock face, and we're always watching time. Do I have to go yet? Is it time to go yet? We're always in a hurry to get nowhere, it seems. So I know that's not exactly what I meant when I wrote this, because I'm also feeling a recall of Bodhi, my husband, telling me this, that he could tell when I'm in a fit of worry or, not a very high vibration, because I get very stern look on my face because I'm really overthinking. I'm thinking really hard. Being becomes knowing. So the shadow. So I'm really stuck. So he can see my shadow veil my consciousness by the expression on my face. So this was something that I could refine. And then as I'm sitting here, I'm automatically calling up to here the future. So once I refine this, recognizing when I'm going into one of these triggers, can't tell if that's on the screen, when I go into one of these triggers and then my awareness becomes veiled by my shadow and my anger, to really watch my face, like watch how my body feels, watch how things tense up, so that I can make new steps forward, so I don't just keep repeating the old records of the past. I can change my perception of the past and start to make new actions moving forward. So what I'm doing in essence is I'm reimagining my existence. I'm rewriting my story in that I'm recognizing the repeat, pushing pause and saying, no, this is what I'm going to play now. I'm putting a new record on. And then I think of records. I think of Pink Floyd. And I'm kind of drawing a blank with this image, except for that the rainbow makes me think of this guided meditation that Bodhi just put together. I think it's called the Rainbow Tribe or something like that. It's on the Insight Timer if you want to check it out. It's really, really special. And it's short, so it's just a guided meditation if you want to check that out. But that rainbow is what was speaking to me specifically, I suppose. But I love Pink Floyd. I love listening to the lyrics of Pink Floyd. That really will get you to go down some rabbit holes for sure. So animal production, I'm thinking about this again. Really looking at the seasons. So, animals' reproduction systems, they're not all like 9 months. It's not like, we think you plant in the winter or the spring and then you harvest in the fall. Well, that's one reproduction system, but I don't think plants actually work on that like black and white cookie cutter kind of way. And animals, they have different gestation periods as well. So this is really making me think that a season isn't, kind of how I've thought about it in the past, which is your new moon or your winter down here and your summer up here, and nothing happens here and everything happens here. Well, within this period is another one of these cycles shrunk down. So there is a period within here that is active and non-active. So these cycles aren't just, this is how life is in this one flat form. Within this entire form, there's this sphere of influence that moves around in each one of the cycles of time, in each aspect of your life. They really kind of overlap. So then what I was doing with my spreads back at that time is I was using a tarot card to ask a question and then for it to provide an answer for me. And evidently I pulled 3 cards here. So vibrations are your motions, or your motions are your vibration. And the past was telling me rewrite the past. I got the strength reversed. The present was telling me to narrate the now. So like the new now, narrate what I want to create in the future, right? Write the future. The 3 of Pentacles. Ooh, I think the 3 of Pentacles came up for me in a reading. This week's opportunities. This week's challenges. So this would be a synchronicity. I would not normally be coming across this page. I haven't looked at this page for a couple years. But now, last night, I pulled this card for the 3 of Pentacles and I see it here. So I'm going to pull some sort of information and put it in here because it's telling me to pay closer attention to this message. Which there's great advancements to be made, but you'll have to learn to work with the skills and assets of those around you. If you're more accustomed to carving your own path, the 3 of Pentacles designates an approaching period of necessary teamwork and camaraderie. So I'm thinking about the animal production, about production. So in my production, I'm needing camaraderie. I'm needing teamwork. I'm needing help. Collaborations in my production. So I'm just playing on the idea of animal reproduction, and then I'm really focusing on the production part of this challenge of the 3 of Pentacles. Perhaps there are coworkers you'll need to team up with, or a new business partner to back your financial efforts. Either way, prepare yourself to become part of a new and engaging team. Great success awaits, but you cannot complete this endeavor alone. So then what that tells me is that in my fruit of life cycle that I'm doing, in this period of time that I'm pulling my ruins and I'm searching for the truth, what I'm seeing here is that I'm needing ask for help. I don't know what kind of help I need exactly. So what I could do is I could come over here to my notes page, teamwork and camaraderie. I already put that on here because I had this note. So now I'm seeing what I really need to think about is, what do I need help with? So then you can see how these books, this different practice kind of starts all to melt together to work on my shadows, on my limited perspective, the programming that I've experienced growing up, and then really set new goals and intentions, to complete a purpose, to evolve and move beyond any kind of struggle or limitations that I might be experiencing. So now I'm being drawn to this sphere, which is the numerology sphere. I put something about the number 1, to free your mind from the matrix. And I just wrote a little note here that Neo and 1 are the letters, moved around. I believe in something. So to think that if you believe in something or you don't believe in something, both things will be true. Because whatever you believe in, you're going to make, in your reality. It's going to be in your awareness. So I believe in something. I believe in the 1. Ooh, Ooh, I believe in the one unity. I don't believe in nothing. But I could probably argue that I do believe in nothing, which is something. Anyways, the matrix and time. So it makes me think of this difference in sorts of time. There is time that is a very digital time that man has constructed to break down this very straight yang direction of energy. But then there's also a time that is the shadow moving around the wood dial, in the dirt and the stones that we replicate in this clock. So it doesn't matter if it's clockwise or anti-clockwise. They're both the same movement. It just depends on the perspective that you're looking from, which is the same thing. These are just different perspectives of time. It just depends on how you're applying which one and what you're trying to accomplish with it. So it's not specifically that I believe that the time of the matrix is bad. I just think that the time of the nature is more universal in that it should always be the foundation to whatever we put on top of it. So I'm trying to line back up with my life in this one and just let this be an auxiliary type of time. And so therefore I create art. My whole life is centered around this evolution of using this practice of really looking at how nature flows through this spiral, this cycle, to kind of expand out and apply that in my own life in a psychological and emotional way. So the brain would be the next thing to specifically draw my attention to, of course, if I'm thinking about psychology and thoughts and like who I am, that idea we are associating with the brain, but more than likely it's in an aspect, a quantum aspect that is outside of our comprehension of what this physical matter is, right? So I'm really just grounding the idea of the brain as this connection to past, future, and present, really through memories and through vision. And what's standing out right now is the duality of that you have these two hemispheres that you see. And so then the same thing with the DNA, you have these two spirals that are coming together. It makes me think of the same thing. You have these two hemispheres that are coming together. That's really what this whole practice is to me, is to try to get myself to be a balanced yang and yin, a balanced me and other at the same time. So paradigm shift. So there was some kind of idea that was coming up for me at this time, having a paradigm shift about DNA and the concept of a linear time instead of a cyclical time. Home, but not you. So your body is your home, but it's not exactly you. It's just another thing that you're inhabiting, like we're inhabiting the earth. But the you-ness, the I inside of that, the vision that is creating these memories and projections of the future, that is more of a sacred, wild sort of thing that is, inside and outside of the body. I'm thinking that it has to do with water. That's how my attention keeps getting drawn to. Like I have this, this octopus here with the water idea. I have lots of water symbolism, and I did that study a while back, really looking at the fact that we are just containers of water. So what if all we're here for is to make water move around and interact, right? Wouldn't that be a fun idea? Because I'm really just seeing that we live in an ocean of life. We think of fish swimming through the sea, but when you sit in nature and you watch the birds fly through the sky and the squirrels jump through the trees, then you see that it very much has the same sort of motion, that it feels like it's an ocean. So this is my timepiece. This is how I had approached Kairos before, and now I have some more notes that I can kind of just sit here and ponder a little bit more, and then take this idea of my previous Kairos, and I have this blank slate. And if I think of the importance of what that message is right now, the blank slate, I relate it to that spread that I just did yesterday with Bodhi and Michelle, where I got the rebirth card for how to be okay with letting all of this old time go. And that is that I have a blank slate. I have a blank canvas to create upon, that I can rediscover what my purpose is and my joy, my passion in life. I just have to have this blank page in front of me and a pencil and then just see what comes forward.
Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. This may be one of the most important episodes of the Reality Revolution podcast, and I have talked about these things many times before. I've tried to cover the quantum element of reality creation on several episodes, and I talk about it a little bit in my book, but some of those are harder to understand. But I really hope that if you understand the fundamental idea behind many of the background theories about quantum physics, it will help you to understand how you control the universe. It's the invisible link. In this episode, we're going to move from the world of the macrocosm, the visible material world, to the world of the microcosm, the invisible non-material world. It is in this incredible and fascinating subatomic world, the world of the quantum, that we find the invisible link to the source of miracles. This is where we can begin to understand how and why miracles take place. If you are like me and many others, learning even a little bit about this strange invisible world will help you to understand how the miracle-making process works, and why it works the way it does, and why it can't work any other way. If you want to make miracles in your life, you will probably have to make some changes. And for most of us, it's a lot easier to make changes when we understand why it's to our benefit to make them. First, let's look at some background. Almost 2,500 years ago, a Greek philosopher known as Democritus of Abdera theorized that at the smallest divisible level, all the matter in the universe might be comprised of very small invisible building blocks. He called this elementary building block an atom, or that which cannot be cut. It turns out that Democritus was right. An atom is the smallest particle into which our basic elements, i.e. iron or copper, can be divided. Some 2.5 millennia after Democritus, Richard Feynman, the brilliant Caltech physicist, said very simply, all things are made of atoms. Atoms are very, very small. Feynman uses this example. If an apple were magnified to the size of the Earth, then the atoms in the apple would be approximately the size of the original apple. And that's just the atom. Atoms are composed of subatomic particles, also called quantum particles, which in various combinations give the atom its individual characteristic. If the atom is small, these subatomic particles within the atom are incredibly smaller. For example, the nucleus of the atom, which houses the quantum particles, is only 1/1,000,000th of a billionth of the volume of the atom. The nucleus contains protons and neutrons and also has electrons orbiting around it, and all of these are quantum particles. So when we are talking quantum, we are talking so small, there isn't really a good word for it. What is so amazing is that we live in a quantum universe. In How to Know God, best-selling author Dr. Deepak Chopra describes the realm of the quantum as the transitional place between spirit, God, the source, higher power, first cause, and the material world. Thinking of it in this way helps us to begin to comprehend the incomprehensible, how the power and wisdom that undergirds and permeates the universe moves into physical manifestation. This mysterious, non-material realm forms an underlying fabric in, through, and around everything in the natural world. Importantly, it is in this realm that our intentions, thoughts, desires, and emotions begin the process of affecting not only our bodies, but also the events and circumstances of our lives. We must understand the unseen world. As we discuss this unseen world, we look at three central points regarding the universe and our relationship to it.